So welcome to the Converting Existing Lighting Systems to LEDs webinar brought to you by the Department of Healthcare Access and Information, otherwise known as HCI. You may download the presentation for today's webinar in the Go To panel under the Materials section. We will be answering questions at the end of the presentation. If you have questions, please type them in the question panel. We will not be answering questions from raised hands during today's presentation, so please type all your questions in the question panel so we could read them and answer them. If you experience transmission difficulties during the presentation, please log out and rejoin the webinar using the login information that was sent to you by GoTo. Today's presenter is Jamie Schnick, the Senior Electrical Engineer and Electrical Technical Lead in the HCI OSHPD Building Standards Unit. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and I'll now hand the presentation over to Jamie.
Thank you, Simrit. Good morning, everyone. As she mentioned, Jamie Schnick, electrical engineer with HCI in the Building Standard Unit. I'm a professional engineer, worked as a consultant for 30 years, and have been with HCI now for 6. This topic we were requested to present on this, and we spent considerable time trying to strategize how we can simplify this process for everyone. So I will go ahead and get started. I think everyone's aware that the legislation to phase out fluorescent lamping technology has been sweeping across the US. We see this in multiple states. 2 primary reasons. One is to get rid of the mercury, which is contained in the fluorescent lamps, which has been proven to be toxic. And also modern LED technology offers luminaires that are substantially more energy efficient than fluorescents. This is the legislation for California, Assembly Bill 2208, which essentially prohibits the sale of all compact fluorescent lamps and linear fluorescent tubes, which started January 1st of this year, 2025. We have over 1,500 OSHPD facilities in the state of California, so this is a huge task. We're looking at all these facilities are not going to typically do have fluorescent lighting unless they were built in the last 10 years, and will not be able to get replacement lamps. So we see a big task in front of us. It's going to take everyone's input to get us to the conversion of all the facilities of their lights to LEDs, and we're here to help. A lot of people equate lighting retrofits with PIN 13. PIN 13 has been rescinded. That was back in July of 2022. This was created in the 90s to address then the energy efficient T5 lamps. And there was a lot of retrofits that were changing out fluorescents to fluorescents with a more efficient. We've rescinded this, and we've taken the information that will be used for lighting retrofits and put it into the FREER manual. FREER manual is a guide for field review, excluded or expedited review projects. If the work qualifies, the steps required to start construction are streamlined. And we've included line items for LED retrofits in direct response to AB 2208 and to our updated FREER manual. If you're using the FREER manual, please make sure you get the latest version. This was just reissued again last month. So the FREER manual has a lot of text, but then the main body has a FREER project table. And you'll see that the table has items, categories, and then check boxes for either field review excluded or expedited. There's also a checkbox if a Form 102 is going to be required. We've tried to set up an approach to where the majority of the lighting retrofits can be considered excluded work. For excluded work, there is not a requirement for submission of plans, building permit, or fees. We will request that a form is submitted, and that's for our group to determine if it can be considered excluded work. So here's an excerpt from the Freer manual, and you'll see line items E6, E8, E9, and E10 all deal with lighting retrofits. These are all identified as the potential to be excluded work, and they all have the requirement for Form 102. The OshPod 102 is available for download on our webpage. Here's the link. It's when you submit it, we need to have enough information so we can evaluate whether this is indeed excluded work. And so the requirements to submit proper information for the Form 102 would include a key plan that shows where fluorescent fixtures will be retrofitted or replaced with LEDs, a matrix that has a fixture quantity type, whether it's retrofit, replacement, and lumens, existing lumens, new lumens, existing VA, and new VA. Also, we'll require to have spec sheets for the LED lighting, either new fixtures or retrofit, manufacturer's instructions, and a proposed schedule. So I'm going to go ahead and start walking through these one at a time now. For LED light fixture replacements, owner should submit the Form 102, request for excluded work to the OshPod compliance officer. They will review it and get back to them. If it's agreed that it's excluded work, then the effort can begin. So we see a lot of work interior, and we also see exterior. Exterior, typically, we haven't seen any retrofit kits for exterior lighting. Typically, these are the E6 direct replacement, and these are the minimum requirements to be considered for excluded work. Number one, it's a one-for-one replacement. A fixture comes down, the new fixture goes up. You'll see number 6, it goes in the same location. Number 2, the new fixture weight is equal to or less than the original fixture that's being replaced. Number 3, foot candles level stay the same or increase. Number 4, the power consumption decreases or remains the same. Number 5, the fixtures have equal or lower backlight, uplight glare ratings, the typical bug ratings for exterior lights. And as we said, they need to be installed, one-for-one replacement in the same location. Relocated fixtures will trigger a project which needs to be submitted to the office, field office for review. Interior fixtures. You can do direct replacement for interior fixtures, and they would be considered excluded work if one-for-one replacement, fixture weight equal or less, foot candles remains similar or increases, consumption decreases or remains the same, and they're installed in the same location as the fixtures to be replaced. This is important, prior to installation, the contractor shall review existing ceiling conditions, specifically say the requirements that the replacement fixtures will need to meet the following. Number 1, maintain the ceiling ratings. So you're selecting the proper rating fixture that goes into the existing ceiling. And number 2, maintain or provide proper fixture supports. Here's a little detail that we have on our website. If the fixture is less than 10 pounds, and it's a downlight, then 1 slack wire is required, and it needs to be secured to the ceiling grid. 2x4s up to 56 pounds require 2 slack wires and to be secured to the ceiling grid. Now I'm going to talk about retrofits, and all the ones that we've seen to date are interior, so that's what we'll address. Retrofitting existing interior building mounted fixture, interior building lighting fixtures with new LED can be considered excluded work if, number one, it's UL listed product, the retrofit kit that you're using. Number two, that you reuse existing housing. Different from the requirement for replacement, you don't need to address slack wires or rating of fixtures unless you notice something that's not conforming. Essentially, the housing remains in place and the guts are updated. You know, there's many LED retrofit luminaire conversion kits on the market. They were created to convert existing luminaires with other types of light sources into energy efficient LED luminaires. Certified retrofit kits installed in accordance with their installation instructions into the identified listed luminaires provide a method to have UL listing for the finished product. There's 3 types, so we have 3 line items. The first one is UL type A LED retrofit kit. This could be considered excluded work. You would need to submit the Form 102, and essentially this works with the existing circuit to the fixture remains the same, the existing ballast remains the same, the fluorescent lamps are pulled out and new lamps are put in place that have internal drivers. UL type B LED, very similar. In this case, the ballast is removed and different drivers are used to convert from line voltage to the LEDs. For all of these, you know, the client should submit the OSHPD Form 102, request for excluded work, to the compliance officer to determine if proposed work can be considered excluded. If we're following these guidelines, it would be able to be considered excluded. Type C is now a new driver. Ballast is either bypassed or removed, the lamps are replaced, and the standard LED lamps. So let's get started for your project. You might have all retrofits, you know, type A, type B, type C. You might have some direct fixture replacement and retrofits. So the first thing you'd want to do is download the OSHPD 102 form and fill it out. As we said, the technical information should include a key plan, a matrix of the fixture quantity types that are going to be changed out, spec sheets for the LED replacement light fixtures, manufacturer's installation instructions, and a proposed schedule of work. You'll see there's other information and the instructions are included with the form. You're going to need to include your, you know, the facility ID number, the name of the facility, the building number, type of license. So all of that should be self-explanatory. As you fill it out for your facility. So let's take a look at what we're asking you to submit. We've tried to tailor this towards what we've seen that vendors that change out LED lights, fixtures to LED, submit to the owner to get approval and to use for their contract. So we're not trying to add extra work. We're just trying to get the information shared so that we know what's going on at these facilities. A key plan that shows areas where existing fluorescent fixtures will be retrofit. This is an example of a key plan. It's got room names and numbers. It doesn't need to be a plan that's created specific for this project. It could be a clip from an existing as-builts. It could be part of your exiting plan. It's just a map to identify what where the work is going to be taking place. And then it's an example of the matrix. It basically works off of the key plan and puts the building number and the room number on here, so it's unique. It's got the existing fixture type, what size it is, the number of lamps, the existing watts, and then the retrofit description. The kit is identified, and you'll see this will match up with the fixture schedule. It's got a unique identifier for each of the retrofit kits, number of lamps, the efficacy, lumens per watt, the total watts, the watts that are saved, that shows that it's a net reduction in power consumption, the existing lumens, the new lumens to show that it has similar, it will result with similar foot candle levels. Now we know that the literature for fluorescent lumens versus LEDs, they have a different way of presenting. You know, we're used to fluorescent lumens as the total output package, and then you need to use calculations to take percentages of that. And the LEDs, you know, typically talk about delivered lumens. So we've put together this little cheat sheet for our group and for yours. It kind of looks at how many, you know, what size LED lamps are required to, that is size in watts, to replace fluorescent lamps in watts. And so here's a little simple reference. A lot of this material, you know, we see that in general fluorescents produce 50 to 100 lumens, and LEDs produce 75 to 200. So they are more efficient, more lumens per watts. There's a couple instances here of generally what would be considered a T8, you know, uses two 32 watt lamps would be 2,900 lumens, while equivalent LED replacement would be a reduction of down to 10 to 20 or 18 watts, and it would have similar number of lumens. So we're going to take a look at the matrix and see that it makes sense. You know, we're not going to dig too deep in this, but we want to just make sure that your plan to replace the fixtures is going to result in similar or greater foot candle levels. Here's an example of spec sheets. There's many manufacturers that produce these, but basically here we're saying, okay, here's a spec sheet with a call out of B1 that should match the B1 that was in the matrix. And it gives the criteria. Sometimes these will even say, you know, this is an equivalent to a, you know, 2-lamp fluorescent, but that should be included. Manufacturers installation instructions. This is part of the listing of the retrofit kits that should be included in the 102 form. And then provide a schedule of proposed work. Once this schedule's, you know, all of this will be evaluated by the compliance officer, and the compliance officer will get back to the group or to the submitter and say, yes, this qualifies as excluded work, or maybe, hey, we need a little bit more information for us to evaluate. Or if we see redesign that's being taken place, then it'll be, no, this needs to be submitted as a project. The schedule allows that compliance officer to know generally when to expect this work to take place at one of the facilities that they're responsible for oversight. So that's kind of the process. I put together a number of frequently asked questions. We've been in the process, like we said, this law came into effect at the beginning of the year. We've seen dozens of projects. We've been treating them as projects, and now we've reevaluated and said, how can we streamline the process? I appreciate the people that have been submitting. We've worked with them directly to try to put this presentation together to streamline the process. And along the way, a number of questions came up. So I'm going to start with some frequently asked questions, and then we'll get to the questions that you guys might have. Question number 1, do I need to take foot candle measurements before and after the retrofit? A lot of times we'll see for new construction, that's how we prove that the egress lighting meets the minimum requirements. The answer is no. As long as the installed system matches the matrix, which shows similar lumens for retrofit kits and power reduction, we will not need to take foot candle measurements. We're essentially using that matrix to compare fixture by fixture. So we're determining that similar lumens are being produced with similar results. And as we look at that fixture by fixture, we don't have to go back and take a look at the entire installed system. Question number 2, does the $50,000 limit for SP 1838 exempt projects come into play for freer work and these LED retrofit projects? No. The SB 1838 projects are separate permit submittal that go through the office and are not considered free or excluded work. We know that these many of these LED retrofit projects are going to cost more than $50,000. So no concern on the actual cost. You're just going to need to provide the information that we need so we can evaluate it for excluded work. Do I need to show that the retrofit kits are UL listed? Yes. We want to see the retrofit call down to the matrix, and then as I showed the demonstration, we like you to submit the manufacturer literature that states specifically that it's listed and it meets the requirements. The installation meets the requirements of that listing. Number 4, do I need to hire an IOR design professional of record for excluded work? No, this is not a permitted project, so there will not be a need for IORs. Obviously, design professionals probably are going to be a benefit on this process, but it's not required. There's no drawings that need to be signed. There's nothing that needs to be stamped. I need to notify OSHPD at the start date or finish date of LED retrofit work. And the answer to that is yes. You're going to be submitting a generic, a schedule that will be your best guess at the time of initial submittal. But as you can see in the FEAR manual, Section 7, how to start construction, it states that for excluded work that requires an OSHPD 102 form, all you need to do is send an email or call to notify the compliance officer when the facility is going to begin this excluded work. We get lots of, believe it or not, we get lots of calls. Hey, do you know work is going on in this facility? Is this okay? That's our job, to keep track of the facilities and to make sure that they're maintained and built correctly. And so, yes, you're going to need to let us know when it starts, and in the same case, you're going to need to let us know when it's complete. And you'll see that requirement in our FREER manual. Question number 6. What if I start the retrofit? This is okay. You submitted the 102. It's been agreed that it's excluded work, and you're in the building doing the work, and you determine, oh, I need to do redesign in this area for whatever reason. Maybe the ceiling needs to come down because you're finding out it's inadequate. Maybe it's an area that you'd like to spruce up, and so if that's the case, then a new project is required. The original FREER work, that's been identified can continue, but for specific areas we're going to do a remodel, then you should develop a set of plans and submit to the office formally for a new project. This one comes up a lot. Question number 7, what if we want to change out the lighting controls? Upgrade controls. Typically, this is where the owners going to get the most energy efficient system at the end of the day. This work should be identified in Form 102. New daylight sensors, power packs will trigger a requirement for submittal of new project. You know, typically we understand that, you know, toggle switches can be changed out to modern lighting controls, and that can be done with the existing wiring. And in those cases, it would still be considered excluded work. When you start getting exotic controls or change things around, then that would be a project that would need to be submitted. Number 8, will excluded work trigger Title 24 energy code requirements? No. The only part that really comes in is this bug rating, which we feel is important to make sure that for exterior lights that we're not contributing excessive glare with the change out of the fixture. So no, you wouldn't need to submit energy, you know, Title 24 Part 6 energy code requirements. You just would need to comply with the bug rating. Question number 9, and I'm almost there, so we'll go to yours. And a facility plan to replace or retrofit luminaires installed in a 1 hour ceiling still be considered excluded work? So let's take these one at a time. Fixture replacement, new fixture in an existing 1 hour ceiling. Yes, this can be considered excluded work. However, it's called out in item 6. It will be contractor's responsibility to ensure the replacement fixtures match the ceiling type with mounting hardware and maintain the rating of the existing ceiling systems. If it's a retrofit, yes, it could be considered excluded work. Remember, you would just need to reuse the existing housing and that would remain in place, and then the guts would come out for the retrofit. If this is important, if the contractor or Oshpond field staff observes that a fixture replaced or retrofit does not maintain the rating of the existing ceiling, it should be reported or treated as discovered non-compliant. So if you're going about doing your work and you see, you know, work that's put in place that doesn't maintain the rating of the ceiling, that should be brought to the Oshpond's attention. And then Advisory Guide 14, which is the remodel guide, talks about if the discovered condition applies with the code that was in effect when the work was first constructed, it will remain. If the discovered condition is not in compliant, then that would need to be remediated. So in general, you know, this is just like any other time. If our staff is walking through a building and sees something that's not code compliant, they're gonna call it out, and we'll go through the process of how that's addressed in the remodel code. So finally, my last slide before we go to questions, how we move forward with LED lighting retrofits. Currently, there's a number of LED lighting retrofits that have been sent to the office and or are under construction, or the work has already started. We should just stay the course with these projects. They've already started. We'll just finish them out as permitted projects. Today, it marks the date that we're making the change. We expect, and you can always still submit them as projects, but we expect most new LED lighting retrofits will be submitted as excluded work. The field will take the first look at these projects, communicate to the client when it's acceptable as excluded work. And for your information, we've gone through all of this internally. We've got all the field staff on board. We've got all the office staff on board. As this is new and transitions, the field staff is been instructed that they're free to share with the office to get recommendations and help them do the first review on a couple of these so they get they understand the process. And so we've worked hard to try to, you know, number one, develop this plan, and then also educate internally and externally so this can go as smooth as possible. And that's the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and start looking through questions. The reason we asked you to submit these, number one, a matrix will be developed and official responses will be put in writing and posted with this webinar. Now, obviously, we'll go through the ones that we can answer today. If I don't get through them all, then they'll be answered through the webinar. So yes, a link of the recording will be sent to everyone that's registered. Absolutely. I have heard that some LED labs cut sheets state not suitable for operating on generator power. Has HCI encountered this? No. If someone submits LED labs, I recommend that, the retrofit. I recommend that you ensure that they're compatible with the generators, because the majority of our fixtures, if it's 100%, change out of light fixtures, number of them are going to be on the emergency system, essential system, and most of our sources at this point for essential systems are generators. So great question. I'm glad to bring this up. Everybody should be aware of this. We're going to look at the detail. We're going to look at the submittals. If we see something like that, we're going to flag it. But this is really the responsibility of the group that's doing the retrofit process. Okay, I see that a lot of these are being answered with the links. I'm not sure. So this is not. Is there an official time frame for compliance officers to provide congruence on the submitted Form 102? No. If you're feeling that you're not getting response fast enough, I would just follow the normal procedures, go through the regional compliance officer, and we should be able to, our goal is to keep these moving quickly. So the question was, what if it's not, if the Form 102 is submitted and you don't get timely response? I would just bring that to either your supervisor in your area or the regional compliance officer in your area, and that will help us speed it up. With, like I said, over 1,500 facilities, we anticipate that there could be some log jams that are going to come, and we'll work through these as quickly as possible. Right now, we don't have too many on our plate, so things should get through the system quite quickly. Is there a recording? Yes. So will lighting retrofits under excluded work require any existing lighting control switches to be relocated to meet ADA requirements? No. If you're changing out the lamp, retrofitting the kits, and even if you're changing out the controls from a toggle switch to a dimmer, it will not need to be relocated. Can retrofits be done by facility in-house maintenance electricians? Yes. There's, as this is excluded work, this could be done with the resources that you feel most appropriate. Does HCI require positive attachment of retrofit kits? I'm going to have to ask that. That's maybe a little bit more definition to that question is resubmitted, because I don't know how to answer that. Are there any specific cases where projects will be required depending on the type of space that the retrofit is being done? Critical care areas. So no, if we're setting this up that so it can be treated more as a maintenance item than a design item. And so it will obviously be up to the facility to work with CDPH if there's any interruption of healthcare services being provided, but we don't have specific areas that we would treat differently. It's all about, okay, does this meet the minimum requirements for excluded work? If I'm replacing lamps type A on exterior fixture, but the weatherproof lens is broken, do I need to replace the lens? Yes. This is one of those things where we're asking that if the contractor finds something that's not compliant, that would be addressed as part of the project. Submission to compliance officer via email or field review. I would send it through email. You're welcome to have a face-to-face to sit down with them and explain what's going on, but you're going to have to hand over the documents electronically. The package gets submitted to the regional compliance officer of the hospital. Are they familiar with the process? So the package would go to the compliance officer that serves that area. The regional compliance officers are overseeing this for sure. And yes, I presented this same. There's been a lot of work to pull this together. I presented it in-house to our engineers. First to senior staff, Chris Tokas, Richard Tannehill, Arash, Mia Marvelli, and got everybody's buy-in on the approach. Then I presented it to our in-house engineers to get everybody's buy-in, made adjustments. Then we presented it last month to the field staff and answered all their questions. And so we're all on board, all on the same page. And this, the effort is, we've made the effort for this to be a streamlined process. Will the frequently asked questions be available on the HCI website, or they exist only on the presentation? So I'm planning on putting those together and attaching them to the to the webinar, but we can also put them on the frequently asked questions because it's unique. In a project that existing ceiling lighting to be replaced, new can lighting, is the illuminated exit signs at the doors to the stairs to be required to be replaced as well or not? So remember, this is all voluntary work, but we think, well, as far as we're concerned on, at HCI, we're not mandating or requiring that all the fixtures be converted. We're just looking ahead and seeing that if it's illegal to buy or sell fluorescent lamps in the state of California, that someone's going to need to do something. So the answer is, you could go back and do, leave the exit signs the way they are and do all of the, other fixtures that are used for general lighting, and that would be acceptable. Let's see if I can keep moving here. Excuse me, I'm starting to run together. Is it acceptable also to relamp old LED to new LED? Yes. that would be fine. Just state that on your 102, and you would still need to have the comparison matrix to show that you're not increasing the wattage and that you are providing equal or greater foot candle levels. Does the OSHPD 102 need to be prepared by a licensed individual? No. This can be prepared. It doesn't need to be stamped or signed. It should be professionally done and submitted to meet the requirements, but you do not have to have a licensed, designer of record. What if design consultants tell us retrofit trigger Title 24? Could they reach out to HCI directly to confirm? Yes, you can. If you have any of those type of questions where you're not in agreement on what the requirements are, you can send that question to regsunit@hci.ca.gov and get an official ruling or response to that. So if they're at any time, we're trying to keep these LED lighting, questions specific to this so that we don't flood that, and we're keeping these unique. But if it's something that's hasn't been answered, then go ahead and submit something to the regs unit. What if you're only installing retrofits 1 or 2 at a time as bulbs fail? Do you need to submit for each time you do this? That's a great question. I think I'll couch that one and respond to that in written format. Please clarify how the contractor shall state that replacement fixtures will need to meet requirements of the existing condition. So I would put that on the 102 form. So, and you could be a general note to the overall plan that shows where the work is to be done. Is probably the most simplest place for you guys to add it. It could be worked into other areas as well. Is it mandatory that all California hospitals go through the HCI FRIA process in order to have LED updates done? As I suggested, we need to be aware of what's going on in our hospitals. So if there's a whole scale change out of fixtures, then yes, we would require that you submit an OSHPD 1, a FRIA request. We're trying to make this as easy as possible. So if there's something else that's there from that question that I'm not understanding, go ahead and reach out. You can reach out to me directly. Will HCI check the existing ceiling for ceiling compliance? So the way we're setting this up is we're asking you to submit to confirm that it's free, that it's qualifies as excluded work. We're asking for a schedule. We're not intending to have our compliance officers on site while this is happening. They're gonna be visiting, making their rounds to all their facilities that are responsible for general, but they're not going to be going and checking the existing ceiling. As I said, if something's obviously not conforming, and either that's witnessed by the compliance officer or contractor, that should be pointed out, and that would be evaluated to see how that's addressed. Existing non-conforming work, well, that's identified, needs to be brought up into code compliance. Can the owner decide to do retrofit work without going through HCI? I think we answered that one already. If we had additional questions on FRIA LED, yeah, it's let's see, you got that at HCI. Somebody's asking, that regs unit again. So it's regs unit, REGSUNIT at hchi.ca.gov. Wow, I think we got through it. So we're a little bit early, but I'm going to turn this. I appreciate everybody that participated. Thanks for the great questions. We'll get these formally answered and put out in a matrix. It'll take a few weeks for sure, but I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Simrit, who's got some wrap up for us. So thank you for everybody's participation today.
Thank you, Jamie. This brings us to the end of our presentation. We hope you found this webinar to be helpful. Please remember, if you didn't download the PDF presentation, you may do so now by going to the materials section of the GoTo panel. Alternatively, the slide handouts will be made available on the HCI website in approximately 1 week. Also, today's session has been recorded and will be available on the HCI website in approximately 2 weeks' time. If you have any questions about this presentation, please email the regs unit at hci.ca.gov. Once again, that's REGSUNIT at hcai.ca.gov. I've also typed that email in the chat so it's easier to view it and save it for future reference. It's been a pleasure being with all of you today, and thank you for your time. Have a great day.